Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Spellbinders' brand new Serenade of Autumn collection. I love sunflowers and couldn't resist using some of Spellbinders' brand new Serenade of Autumn release. I selected quite a few items from the release to play with, but there are more available. And I do have a link in the description box for the entire Serenade of Autumn collection. The first item is a new wax seal stamper. This is called Sunflower. Look at that beautiful floral design. Wax seals are not new to the craft world, but they have made a recent comeback, and I'm having so much fun making them. There is a new paper pad with the collection. It's called Serenade of Autumn. There are 20 sheets, 10 of each design, and 5 of the designs have beautiful gold foil accents. I'll go through all 10 patterns so you can get an idea of what's included. This paper collection is absolutely gorgeous. Lots of sunflowers, fall leaves, pumpkins, and butterflies. This light blue design with all the gold foiling on it is so pretty. Here's a lovely design with butterflies all on the left side. This pattern is one of my favorites. Has a dark blue background and lots of gold foiling. Here's a sheet with pumpkins at the bottom. A beautiful fall leaf pattern, and the final design has a large wreath with sunflowers in 2 corners and a sweet little bird sitting on top of the sunflowers. The next item is a pack of gem stickers. This is Serenade of Autumn gems. There are 72 pieces, 4 different colors in 3 different sizes. The next item is a die cut shape pack. It includes 138 pieces, and I will lay out all of the pieces when I'm done showing you the collection so you can see everything that's included. There is a fun stamp set. This is called Sunflower Greetings. There's a lovely sunflower, 4 different sentiments, and a few images you could use to create a background. The next item is a pack of butterflies. There are 7 butterflies included. They have beautiful gold foiling, and they lift up for that look of dimension, but they'll all lay down flat. I selected 2 die sets to play with. The first one is called Autumn Sealed Sprigs. I'll pull out all of the pieces so you can see what's included. There are a total of 12 dies in the set. This set works perfectly with the wax seals, but you can also use them without the wax seals. I love the fun leaves and foliage pieces. And most of the die pieces have that beautiful etched detail. The final die set is my favorite. This is Sunflower Serenade. There are 7 dies included in the set. We have the large sunflower with all the petals, 2 pieces for the center, 3 leaves, and also the stem. The 3 leaves and the flower all have that lovely etched detail. To create a very full sunflower, you would simply cut out multiples of the petal piece. And here's a look at all of the die cut shapes. Lots of sentiments and images, and there are 2 of every piece. Many of the pieces also have that lovely gold foiling. With the fun variety of different items from the collection, I decided to treat it similar to a card kit. So I'll be making 10 cards using the kit, although it's actually 20 since I am making 2 of each design. For card design number 1, I'm using a card sketch for inspiration. The sketch is from Sketch Saturday. This is number 735. I selected the beautiful butterfly paper and also the distressed brown pattern paper. The butterfly paper will be the main feature, and I am reversing the sketch. Since the butterflies are on the left side, I decided to have the narrow brown strip on the right side of the card. I layered both of the pattern paper pieces on some dark brown cardstock, And for a little bit of separation and shine between the two pattern paper pieces, I'm adding a Love from Lizzie peel off. For a sentiment, I'm adding the word grateful, and this is one of the die cut pieces. On the card sketch, there are 3 narrow diagonal strips behind the sentiment box. I'm using more Love from Lizzie peel offs. This is the gold color in the straight design. I'm cutting the strips much shorter than what's indicated on the card sketch since I don't want to cover up the beautiful butterfly images, but they are long enough to still poke out behind the sentiment. I have foam dimension on the back of the sentiment. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment in the lower right hand corner. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding some of the lovely blue gem stickers. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 2, the card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 593. My first, I think 7 or 8 cards will feature the pattern paper. Then I'll start bringing in the dies and also the wax seal stamper. I selected 2 pattern papers for the background. Instead of cutting a full panel from the light blue paper, I cut 2 narrow strips since you won't see the very center. That way I'm not wasting any of this beautiful paper. I'll layer both of the papers on some dark teal cardstock. And for a little bit of separation and shine between the pattern paper pieces, I'm adding more Love from Lizzie peel offs. This is the clear with gold overlay color in the pinstripe style. I'm using the narrowest width. I'll use a craft knife to trim the very top end. Then I'll flip over this piece, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. Now I'll bring in some of the die cut pieces. I have the sentiment full of thanks and 2 butterflies. And I did put thin foam dimension on the back of the sentiment and the 2 butterflies. I'll put the blue butterfly above the sentiment on the right side, the rust color butterfly underneath the sentiment on the left side. And for embellishments, I added 3 of the flower gold die cut pieces. Now moving on to card design number 3, and this is a very simple card design. It features the beautiful pattern paper with the pumpkins and foliage at the bottom. I cut down the paper to A2 size, so 5 1/2 inches by 4 1/4 inches. Using the cutoff gray pattern paper, I cut out this lovely border. I used Spellbinders Winter Borders die set. It's a little bit wider than the card. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it at the top of the card about 1/8 of an inch down from the top edge. Then I'll flip over this panel, use my scissors, and trim off the extra. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. For a sentiment, I'm adding the word thankful. This is one of the die cut pieces. The sentiment is in beautiful gold foiling. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it above the pumpkins on the right side of the card. And I'll also add a sweet little bird. I'll adhere it on the left side above one of the pumpkins. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. Sometimes it's nice to have some flat cards on hand, so I don't have to pay extra for postage. For card design number 4, the card sketch is from MFT. This is number 655. The beautiful sunflower image with the bird was part of the sheet that had the large wreath. I simply cut out the lower left-hand corner. For the background of my card, I'm using some cream cardstock, and I added some fun detail using Spellbinders Dazzling Dots embossing folder. I'm using the deboss side. For a little extra sparkle, I'm adding some Love from Lizzie peel-offs at the bottom of this panel. This is the gold moon dust color in the pinstripe style. I'm using the widest and the medium width. I'll layer the background piece on some dark brown cardstock. Since this is an embossed piece, I'm adding extra adhesive using ATG tape and also some glue. And that'll help to make sure the embossed background doesn't come off of the background paper. I've had that happen before, so I like to use a little extra adhesive when I'm using specialty cardstock or embossing folders. Then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. I layered the floral piece on the same dark brown cardstock. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it to the card. Then for a final finishing touch, I'm using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the same gold moon dust color in the mini circle style. I'll put 3 of them underneath the image on the right side. This is another card I decided to keep very simple and also left off a sentiment. I donate a lot of cards and sometimes they prefer to have one without a sentiment. For card design number 5, the card sketch is from MFT. This is number 580. I love this beautiful sunflower pattern paper. I'll be using that for the background. Adding some of the brown distressed pattern paper in the center. Layering both of the pieces on some dark brown cardstock. Put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For a sentiment, I'm using one of the die cut pieces. Has this lovely floral wreath with the sentiment, "Grateful you are such a great friend." I am changing up the card sketch just a little bit. Instead of the banner in front, I'm putting it behind the sentiment piece. I cut the banner from some gold mirror cardstock. This was left over from one of Spellbinders card kits, I believe from last year. Cut a fishtail on the right and left side. I'll put a small scrap piece of cardstock behind the banners on each side, just in the area where it goes off of the brown square in the center. Then I'll put double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the banner and adhere it in place. The roll of double-sided adhesive tape is also left over from Spellbinders card kits. I think I still have about 5 or 6 of them left. Before adhering the die cut sentiment piece, I'll add some scrap cardstock pieces on the back side, just in the areas where it goes above and below the gold banner. And that'll help it stay nice and level. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in place. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding 3 of the small heart die cut pieces. I'll put 2 in the upper right hand corner and 1 in the lower left hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. The sunflower pattern paper is so pretty. I will be using it on another card later in the video. For card design number 6, I'm using one of my favorite pattern papers. Has a dark blue background with lots of lovely gold foil design. I cut down this piece to 3 7/8 of an inch by 5 1/8 of an inch. Layered it on some dark teal cardstock. Then I'll layer it again on some beautiful white pearlescent cardstock. I did cut out a small arch die cut from the white pearlescent cardstock. And I'll be using that on the front of the card. I don't want that gap in the very center, so I used some scrap cardstock, cut out another arch, and filled in that gap. I cut out another arch from vellum, slightly larger than the white arch. I'll layer the 2 pieces together. And the arch dies are from Spellbinders Essential Arches die set. I'll put glue on the back, adhere the arch on the center of the card. Next, I'll add one of the beautiful sunflower images. And I'll finish off the card by adding the sentiment, "Thinking of you." It's the same dark blue teal color with gold foil letters. I put foam dimension on the back. I'll remove the release paper and add the sentiment at the bottom of the arch underneath the sunflowers. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 7, the card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 600. I'm using the beautiful fall leaf paper for the background, layering it on some dark brown cardstock. I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. for the narrow strip that goes across the card using more of the brown distress pattern paper. Next, I'll add a circle die cut, and I cut this out from some white pearlescent cardstock. I'll adhere it on the left side of the card. Then I'll add 3 of the beautiful fall leaf die cut pieces. Just adhere those down using some glue. For a sentiment, I'm adding the word grateful. I do have foam dimension on the back side. I use slightly thicker foam dimension behind the right side of the sentiment, trying to keep everything nice and level. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the sentiment partly on top of the fall leaves. For a final finishing touch, I'm adding some of the lovely gem stickers, this time the peachy pink color. Put 3 in the upper right hand corner and 2 in the lower left hand corner. The gem stickers do have adhesive on the back, but sometimes I like to add a small drop of glue just to make sure they don't pop off later. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 8, the card sketch is from Sugar Pea Designs. This is Sugar Sketch number 9. This card sketch is one of my favorites. It's really fun to use. I selected 2 different pattern papers. I have more of the beautiful sunflower paper for the narrow strip on the left side of the card, and the light blue paper with the gold foliage pieces for the right side of the card. I'm changing up this sketch slightly. The blue piece will go behind instead of in front of the sunflower paper. And I did put a scrap piece of cardstock behind the sunflower strip before adhering it down. I used craft cardstock for the background, layered everything on dark brown cardstock. For the narrow banner toward the bottom of the card, using more of the dark brown cardstock, I'll cut a fishtail on the left side. Before adhering it in place, I will put some foam dimension on the very right side and left side. And I'll also add a small scrap piece on the right side, just trying to keep it nice and level, and there's all those different layers on the background of the card. I'll place the banner on my card, making sure I have the foam dimension in the correct areas. Then I'll add that small scrap piece of cardstock, remove the release paper, and adhere it in place. Next, I'll add a white circle die cut, use some of the white shimmer cardstock. I'll put glue on the back and adhere the circle in place. I'm not adding any scrap cardstock pieces underneath since I will be adding a large die cut image. This card will be featuring the beautiful sunflower image. I cut out 3 of the petal pieces from some yellow cardstock, and I'll adhere all of those together, shifting the petal pieces just slightly so I have a very full sunflower. For the center of the sunflower, I used 2 different shades of brown cardstock. One of the center pieces of the sunflower has a scallop edge. I cut out 2 of the scallop pieces, glued them together, just offsetting them slightly. Then I'll add the little seed portion on top. Now I'll put glue on the back of the sunflower and adhere it on the circle die cut. Since I don't have any adhesive underneath the petals, I'm able to lift them up for some extra dimension. For a sentiment, I'm adding a light blue banner with Happy Birthday. I have foam dimension on the back, and I'll adhere it underneath the sunflower. Then for a final finishing touch, I'm adding some of the blue gem stickers. Put 3 of them in the upper right hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love the sunflower die set. It has beautiful detail. Now moving on to card design number 9. Using Spellbinders Dazzling Dots embossing folder, I embossed some craft cardstock. I have the embossed side up, and I want the embossed design to show a little bit more, so I'm using some Distress Oxide ink. This is the Vintage Photo Color, just lightly brushing it all over the background piece. I will be using a card sketch for inspiration, although I'm really not following the measurements. This is MFT sketch number 662. I selected 2 pattern papers, have the beautiful fall leaf pattern paper, and also a narrow strip of the blue with gold design. you'll see just a tiny bit of the blue paper underneath the leaf pattern paper. I'll adhere both of those at an angle on the background of the card, flip over this panel, use my scissors to trim off the extra. Now I'll add a little bit of shine and separation with some Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the brown color with gold overlay, using the largest width at the very top of the leaf paper and adding 2 of the narrowest width at the bottom of the leaf paper. I'll wrap the ends around the back, layer this panel on some dark brown cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Next, I'll add some of the die cut pieces from the Autumn Sealed Sprigs die set. I have 2 different fall leaves and 2 foliage pieces. I'm putting 1 piece of foam dimension at the top of the 2 leaf pieces. I'll first add one of the foliage pieces on the left side, and I did trim off the very bottom of the stem so it could sit just a little bit lower and not hang off of the card. I'll put glue on the back, then I'll add the second yellow foliage piece. I like how they've included 2 pieces, one leans more toward the right and the other toward the left. Then I'll add the red leaf and finally the orange leaf. And I'm trying to cluster the stems together since I'll be adding a wax seal on top. I've already stamped out the sentiment, "Thankful for your friendship," layered it on some dark brown cardstock, and I did pop it up with some foam dimension. I'll adhere it in the lower right hand corner. Now I'll make the wax seal. I'm using 2 different colors of wax beads. 5 of the beads are Laguna and 1 gold, just to add that little extra interest. It's fun to mix up the different wax bead colors. Once the wax beads are mostly melted, I'll use a toothpick, stir it, let it sit for another 20 seconds. Then I'll lift up the spoon, pour out the hot wax on my silicone mat. Then I'll gently place the wax seal stamper on top. Once the wax seal is cool, and it doesn't take very long, I'll put some adhesive on the back, and I'm using Spellbinders Wax Seal Stamp Adhesive Circles. They're super sticky and they fit perfectly behind the wax seals. I'm also adding just a tiny bit of glue on the edge of the wax seal. Always good to have a little extra adhesive. Then I'll adhere it onto the card. I love how this card turned out. The sunflower wax seal stamper is just beautiful. Now moving on to card design number 10. I'll be using several of the stamps from the Sunflower Greeting stamp set. I have the script, you can't really read it, and also the 3 little splatter images. I'm stamping on some white pearlescent cardstock using metallic gold ink. I'll stamp 2 of the script images in the upper left-hand corner, 1 in the lower right-hand corner. I have all 3 of the splatter images on an acrylic block, and I'll stamp those randomly all over the background, rotating the block to give it a different look. Using the same metallic gold ink, I'm adding some to the edge of the background panel, giving it more of a distressed look. Then I'll put adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base. With the pearlescent cardstock and gold metallic ink, the background has a beautiful shimmery look. This card will be featuring another sunflower, this time in a pretty pink color. I've already assembled the sunflower, and I cut out the stem and leaves from some dark teal cardstock. I'll first attach the stem on the back of the sunflower. I'm laying it on the card to get the placement correct. And I do have foam dimension behind the flower. I'll adhere it on the center of the card. Next, I'll add the 3 leaves, and I did put foam dimension just on the very edge of each of the leaves. I'll put glue on the end of the leaves and attach them to the sunflower stem. I like how each of the leaves is so different. I'll start with the leaf on the right side, then add the upper leaf on the left side, and finally the lower leaf that sort of sits in front of the stem. I decided not to add a sentiment to the card. For embellishments, I'm using Spellbinders Gold Mix Gem Stickers. There's 2 different shades of gold. I'm using the lighter shade. I'll put 2 in the upper left-hand corner and 3 on the right side of the sunflower. And I am adding a small drop of glue before adhering the gem stickers, since the background does have a pearlescent finish. For a final finishing touch, I'm using a clear glitter brush and adding it to the very center of the sunflower so it's super sparkly. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love how this card turned out. The background was really fun to create, and who wouldn't love a beautiful pink sunflower? Now here's another look at the 20 cards I made using Spellbinders' brand new Serenade of Autumn collection. This is a beautiful release. There are so many fun products available, and I didn't use everything. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. And I also have a link for the entire Serenade of Autumn collection if you want to check out the other products available. I love sunflowers and I love making fall cards, so I couldn't resist using this beautiful collection. And be sure to check out the rest of Spellbinders' October new releases. They have several available. So many fun products this month. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.